Hello all of you wonderful people, Jules here for Whatculture.com, and you know what, today I'm going to draw back the curtain a little bit and talk about what it's like to work here in our offices. Now, many people imagine that it'll all be like whooping and hollering with stupid stunts going on all the time and maybe Josh Brown having a post-Friday night sesh come down kip on the floor, but you know what, it's actually pretty organised. We all get along, we all chill out and go for lunch together and hang out after work, and best of all, no one seems to be afraid of each other. Now, I know what you're thinking, that last statement might sound a little strange, but let me explain, because in this list we're going to be detailing times where actors made their co-stars so uncomfortable that they genuinely feared being around them. Now, I'm not equating working at WC like working for DC and the like, but it's still mad when you consider how far some people can take things. So let's take a look at these terrorizing thespians and their antics today. As I'm Jules, this is Whatculture.com, and these are 10 actors who were scared of other actors. Number 10. Jared Leto's bizarre antics made Scott Eastwood afraid. Suicide Squad. For his role as the Joker in 2016's Suicide Squad, Jared Leto took a series of unusual steps in order to plant himself in the mindset of the unhinged Batman villain. Now, famously, he sent a couple of, let's just say, unusual gifts to his co-stars, including one incident where he hired a henchman to deliver a dead pig to the cast's rehearsal room. Charming, right? Of course, this put people on edge, so much so that Scott Eastwood stated that he was afraid to interact with him. Leto also spooked Margot Robbie as well as director David Ayer, who have both referred to his presence as terrifying in past interviews. And was it worth it? Well, I mean, his scenes are definitely memorable in Suicide Squad, but then again, into a beehive is memorable and no one would enjoy that. Anyway, it was clear that he never needed to go to such lengths. Number 9. Gunnar Hansen's performance made Marilyn Burns think the movie was real, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was famously produced on a truly minuscule budget. Even by 1974 standards, the purse of $100,000 was incredibly low. As such, the cast weren't exactly staying in 5-star hotels and enjoying a breezy, luxurious shoot, and for lead actress Marilyn Burns in particular, the production of the movie was a nightmarish experience. The film's famous dinner scene features Burns' character Sally being tortured by a family of cannibals, including Leatherface. The scene was shot in a farmhouse and the cast had to endure unbearable levels of heat and a putrid smell for hours, leading some people to take vomit breaks. This frustration at having to shoot in such conditions reached a new height though when Hansen cut Sally's finger for real when it was meant to be just an effect. This led to Burns understandably being terrified of Hansen, and considering the claustrophobic and sweltering conditions, I think most people would have felt the same way. Number 8. Steven Seagal shot John Leguizamo with a punch to the chest. Executive decision. Back in the 90s, Steven Seagal was one of the most famous action stars around, and whenever audiences sat down to watch one of his movies, they were likely expecting one thing and one thing only: for him to kick a lot of ass, and to likely do so while having a ponytail. This expectation was usually met, but one thing that people didn't know was that Seagal also liked to kick ass off-screen as well. I mean, just ask John Leguizamo. The two actors collaborated on the 1996 action thriller Executive Decision, and while the movie works well and is entertaining enough, it wasn't exactly the happiest of families behind the scenes. According to Leguizamo, Seagal on his first day walked onto the set, told everyone that he was in charge, and then slammed him into a brick wall. And the reason why he did this? Well, because like most people, you'd just think he was joking, but it turns out he wasn't. Oh dear. Number 7. Gene Wilder's crazy acting scared his young co-stars, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So, on reflection, 1971's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is a rather messed up movie. Augustus Gloop nearly drowns in a river of chocolate before being stuck inside an extremely tight pipe. Veruca Salt falls down a garbage chute which leads to a furnace. And then there's that nightmarish boat scene where Wonka starts singing like a possessed maniac as the lights dim and scary imagery flits across the screen. It is genuinely unsettling, so imagine what it must have been like to see this in person. Director Mel Stewart didn't tell any of the actors what to expect from Gene Wilder's performance as Wonka during this scene, which made everyone uncomfortable to begin with. Then when Wilder started babbling on in a deranged manner, the children started to legitimately think he'd gone insane. As such, there's a genuine tension to this scene because it was genuinely scaring them. Number 6. Gene Hackman's aggressive behaviour scared Gwyneth Paltrow, The Royal Tenenbaums. Wes Anderson's The Royal Tenenbaums is a quirky and brilliantly placed comedy drama that seems like it would have been an absolute pleasure to work on, right? Well, as they say, you should never judge a book by its cover, because here the movie's carefree exterior is masking a shoot that was marred with friction between the cast and director. And that was mostly down to Gene Hackman, who reportedly was an absolute pain to work with, something that his co-stars discussed in a 2011 Q&A at the New York Film Festival. At the event, Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelica Houston both confessed that they were scared of Hackman, with Houston going so far as to say that she felt like she needed to protect Anderson from his nasty behavior. Hackman supposedly used the C word against Anderson while also telling him to pull up your pants and act like a man. It seems like from all the stories that his larger-than-life Hollywood icon persona cast a long and deep shadow over the whole affair. Number 5. Jack Nicholson terrified Leonardo DiCaprio with a gun prop, The Departed. For better or worse, Jack Nicholson seems like a pretty intense actor. There's just something unnerving and unpredictable about him, which infuses his roles with an unparalleled energy. However, he also seems like the wrong person to tangle with, as Leonardo DiCaprio can attest to when the pair worked together on The Departed. Now, one of the best scenes of the movie involves an exchange between Nicholson's mob boss and DiCaprio's out-of-his-depth undercover cop, when Nicholson is looking for answers. Now, midway through their conversation, Jack reaches under a table and pulls out a gun, brandishing it in DiCaprio's face. Suddenly, the tension of the scene is heightened astronomically. However, that's not just some incredible acting that you're witnessing, but also a real fear, as Leo didn't know that Jack was going to pull a gun. It turns out that Nicholson was deliberately trying to make DiCaprio afraid in order to enhance the drama of the scene, and clearly, he was successful in that task. Number 4. Bill Skarsgard freaked out the child stars. It. While 2017's It reboot was a heartwarming coming-of-age tale with an engaging supernatural edge, it wasn't particularly scary. Rather than make people look at the screen through cracks in their fingers, Bill Skarsgard's performance as Pennywise was actually quite transfixing and fun to watch. After all, it's a film about the fears of children, not adults, so the scares are tailored to a younger mindset. That being said, though, it really worked on the young actors because they were utterly petrified of him. While preparing for the film, Skarsgard was kept separate from the child actors so that when they encountered him on camera, their reactions would be as genuine as possible. And when you consider the large frame of the actor and the massive light bulb of a head he has, of course you're going to be leaving a Dairy Lee dunker in your trousers. What resulted were scenes of genuine shock and fear, which translated perfectly to the cinema audience. Number 3. Heath Ledger made Michael Caine forget his lines. The Dark Knight. Back when it first released, The Dark Knight was complained about by a record number of parents who reportedly had to shield their children's eyes from violent scenes featuring Heath Ledger's psychotic and dangerous Joker. But the character didn't just spook families around the globe, he also spooked some of the actors working on the film with him. In the months before The Dark Knight hit cinemas, Michael Caine, who starred as Alfred Pennyworth, gave an interview in which he confessed to finding Ledger's presence terrifying on set, and also commented that the first time that he witnessed the clown prince of crime in full getup, he was so shocked that he forgot his lines. However, this was a blessing in disguise, as the take was so good that it made its way into the final cut. However, Caine wasn't the only actor who failed to laugh at the clown, as, number 2, Maggie Gyllenhaal couldn't even look at him. The Dark Knight. It might be surprising to realise, but Maggie Gyllenhaal has only got one scene with the Joker in the entire movie, but the moment was so scary that it left the actress reeling. Gyllenhaal later confessed to finding her scene with Ledger scary, and apparently the moment where Rachel is first grabbed by the Joker and tries to wriggle out of his clutches was semi-improvised. The duo's acting in this scene resulted in one of the most tense moments in the movie, and clearly Ledger was just as powerful a presence in person as he was on the screen. And number 1, Marlon Brando made his child co-star cry. The Godfather. In so many ways, The Godfather is a cinematic tour de force. From its epic multi-layered story to the absolutely stunning music, there are very few flaws to be found here. It also contains some of the best acting in movie history, especially from Al Pacino and Marlon Brando. And in fact, Brando was so good that he actually ended up making one of the young actors in the movie cry for real. A pivotal scene in the film depicts the death of Brando's Vito, with the character succumbing to a heart attack. Shortly before this happens, he's shown spending time with his grandson, son, who becomes upset and starts to cry after Vito puts an orange peel in his mouth and growls. Vito then comforts the boy, and after playing for a few more moments, he keels over and dies. It's a wonderful little interaction between grandfather and grandson that feels so damn honest and real, and maybe that's because one part of the scene was actually real. The bit where the young lad cries was totally genuine, and the comforting moment after was also true to life as Brando tried to calm down his co-star after really scaring him. It's not the nicest way to elicit emotion, but damn if it didn't work an absolute treat here.